Hello everybody and welcome back to Bring Your Own Popcorn and welcome to another first time watching video. I've been hyped to see this film for a while, ever since it was announced, so we're off to the cinema again for this one and we are off to see Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I am so excited for this movie. I'm a massive fan of the Indiana Jones franchise, have been since I've been a wee kid. And yeah, I recently rewatched them all just so they were fresh in my mind. So my current ranking for them is Raiders being my favourite. It's always been my favourite. Then I would say Crusade. On this watch through, Crusade's made it up to my second spot. It used to be Temple of Doom, but those two films are very close together. So I would go Crusade, Temple of Doom, and then last place, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Which I used to think I really didn't like. I used to think that film was absolute trash. But this rewatch, I actually liked it more than I thought I did. It's not a great film by any means, but it's not bad. It's not a bad one. I had a bit of fun with it. So yeah, Raiders, Crusade, Temple, and then Crystal Skull at the end. And I'm hearing this one is better than Crystal Skull, but not as good as the original three, which is honestly what I was expecting. It is so difficult to live up to the glory that those original three movies was. It was just this nice little bit of adventure cinema. These three incredible adventure films, one after another. It is so difficult to live up to that. But I have heard decent things about this. I have heard mixed reviews, some people saying that they really don't like it. I hope, I really hope I'm not in that camp. We've got a new director, James Mangold. This is the first one not to be directed by Spielberg. And I'm excited to see a new fresh take on it, even though it's for the last Indiana Jones film. I'm excited to see a fresh take on it. And James Mangold's one of the best directors working in cinema right now in Hollywood. So he's done some of my favourite films of all time with Walk the Line and Le Mans 66. So yeah, I'm really excited to see his take on Indiana Jones. And yeah, I'm just extremely hyped for this one. I hope I'm not in the camp that don't like this film, but hopefully, fingers crossed, I really enjoy this film. So there's only one way to find out, and that is heading off to the cinema and watching it. So here we go.
A few times in my life I've seen things.
I've been tortured with voodoo. Been shot 9 times, including once by your father. Sorry!
But I've been looking for this all my life.
So it's a few days after I saw Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I was really nervous for this film. I'd heard a lot of mixed things about it, and I'm a massive Indiana Jones fan, especially Raiders. Raiders is easily in my top, I would say, 30 films of all time. I absolutely love that movie. It's the greatest adventure film ever made. So I really wanted to like this one. I heard a lot of mixed things about it. It seemed to be a really love it or hate it kind of movie, and I really wanted to be on the love side of things. And thankfully, I am. I had an absolute joy with this movie. This movie, whilst not recapturing the true magic of the original trilogy, comes pretty damn close in places and is a hell of a lot closer than Crystal Skull ever was. I thought the story was really captivating. They picked a really good central plot with the dial. It was really interesting just watching this story unfold and learning more about the dial. The dialogue was really nicely written and there was some really nice callbacks to the earlier films, which I always appreciate. I thought the physical ending of this movie was extremely satisfying, and I'm very happy to leave Indiana. As a massive Indiana Jones fan, I'm very happy to leave Indiana in this place if we never see him again, which it's looking like we will never see Indiana Jones again, which is sad, but this time had to come at some point, and I really don't want them to recast Harrison Ford. So I think they're making the right choice, and I'm very happy with the place that they've left him. I probably am slightly happier where he gets left off at the end of Last Crusade, but I am pretty equally as happy with the ending of this film. I thought this film was lacking a little bit in humour. The Indiana Jones franchise is known for kind of witty, dry humour. It's witty, dry comedy, and it's pretty absent from this film. I laughed a couple of times, whereas in the previous movies, I laughed a lot. I would actually say they're more, especially Raiders and Temple, and even Last Crusade, they are much more adventure comedies rather than just solely adventure films. They have a lot of good humour in it, and I felt that this was probably the least funniest Indiana Jones movie. Overall, however, I am extremely happy with the direction that they took this movie in terms of the story. In terms of direction, James Mangold, man, what a director he is. He is easily one of the greatest directors working right now, and he does an absolute brilliant job directing this film. He directs this film with such ease that it feels like he has been directing Indiana Jones forever. I was sad when they announced that Spielberg wasn't going to be doing this one. He stepped down due to creative issues, I think. But once they announced that James Mangold was taking over, I kinda knew I had nothing to worry about. The film looks absolutely exceptional from beginning to end. The special effects are just jaw-dropping, especially the de-aging of Harrison Ford at the start, and the fact that they managed to take Glasgow and with CGI turn it into olden day New York, like a 1960s New York. It just looked absolutely insane. The action was so incredibly filmed, the cinematography was just absolutely sublime. The sets were awesome looking as well. They were like practical sets, which I loved. They just weren't CGI'd in. And they really reminded me for some reason of being at like Disneyland and being on like a walk-through ride. It gave me that kind of aesthetic, which I absolutely loved. I felt the film could have benefited from having a little more horror in there, being a little bit darker, a bit like Raiders and Temple did. There were some scary scenes here and there. Well, not scary scenes, but for a 5-year-old, for example, it would be a little bit scary. But in terms of Raiders and Temple, they got the mix of action, adventure, and horror perfectly. Whereas this one, it would have benefited from having a little more horror in there. I also would have liked a little bit more practical effects. There was a lot of CGI in this one, and whilst it did look good, I'm a sucker for a practical effect. I love practical effects so much, so I felt this film would have benefited from that. Performances wise, this one gets a thumbs up from me. Harrison Ford slips back into the role of Indiana Jones with absolute ease. It's like he's never been away. Phoebe Waller-Bridge was a great sidekick and had great chemistry with Harrison Ford, as well as Mads Mikkelsen playing a pretty exceptional villain. The whole supporting cast was great too, from Antonio Banderas to Toby Jones. They were all welcome additions in my eyes. Honestly, I can't pick out one bad performance in here. Obviously, there were some that were better than others, with Harrison Ford stealing the show for me. Because of course Harrison Ford steals the show. Great performances all round. The film's score by John Williams, whilst it was good, it felt more like a greatest hits than him producing new original music. What he'd done with this movie felt very predictable, and I would have liked a few more original tracks. He must have played the Raiders theme about 20 times during this movie. It really did just feel like a greatest hits album rather than new original music. But it wasn't, it's John Williams. It wasn't a bad soundtrack by any means. I don't think that man can make a bad soundtrack, but it just didn't feel imaginative. The film's runtime is also probably a tad long. I'm going to praise the other films as well. They all stick around the 2-hour mark, which I think is perfect for a movie like this. This one goes to 2 hours 20, and honestly it could have benefited from being 20 minutes shorter. Overall, The Dial of Destiny was a fun, action-packed final installment in one of my favourite franchises of all time. I would really recommend checking this one out in the cinema, and I would give it an 8 out of 10. In terms of ranking the Indiana Jones films, we'll go from best to worst. Raiders, Crusade, Temple, Dial of Destiny, Crystal Skull at the end. So guys, thank you for watching this really quick review. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Share with your friends, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.